What's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to be checking out something a little bit different than what we would normally see in the videos here on this channel. We're going to be checking out the 150 years of awesome Canada. As you probably may or may not know, I'm Canadian. Canadian my entire life, loved living in Canada, and just celebrated 150 years of Canada. How awesome is that? I do want to take the time, though, and apologize. There is the YouTube channel, the Homemade Game Guru, if I'm sure many of you are familiar with, does some incredible cardboard creations, and has recently started his own campaign to make his own comic series. I'll put his link down below in the video description, but he had actually reached out to me and said from one fellow Canadian to another, how would I like to review his 150 Years of Awesome Canada trading card set? And I said, absolutely, being obviously Canada and proud of the country I live in, I said, absolutely. And unfortunately, when he shipped them, they came in a brown envelope, and I put the envelope in my office because I was going to review it. And unfortunately, I put stuff on top of it. I forgot all about it. So I do want to take the time, and I just want to apologize to Homemade Game Guru for not getting a chance to get to these right away. Ideally, it would have been perfect to have done it just before Canada Day, or even have the video posted on Canada Day. So again, I do want to apologize for that. So this is basically everything that he sent, and I'm going to put the link down below. So if you guys are, well, if you're Canadian and you would like to get these cards for yourself, or if you'd like to get just a really cool collectible that he is producing, I'm going to basically put all the information down below. So this is what I got inside the envelope. I had the little advertisement slip here for 150 Years of Awesome Canada, limited edition Canada 150 trading card series. Gives the Facebook address, www.facebook.com/150 Years of Awesome Canada. There's also the eBay at ebay.com/USR/Canada 150. And there's also the Etsy as well. You can also check out his Zelfa Comics and Collectibles at www.zelfacomics.com. Also got inside a slip, 150 Years of Awesome Canada, signed Dave Sim, Canadian Comic Legends Edition, and Cerebus in Hell #1 contest entry form. Got one of the cards in a protective case, one of these little protective plastic sleeves. And there is Niagara Falls. And over here, the Comic-Con Niagara Falls as well. And each one of the cards has its own respected read-up. Now, for the course of time and for the extensive details that are provided on the back of the cards, I'm not going to read them, but I just want to show you that there is an extensive amount of information that Guru has put onto the back of these cards. What I do like is the presentation. Just to show you how they come presented, you get, I think it's 8 books. It's technically 9 books, but you get each of the books come in their respected booklet. And I have to jokingly admit that when I first got it, I kind of went, and it reminded me of when you used to get the wax packs back in the day, how they came in those little, the actual envelopes that you open them up, and that initial smell of a gloss trading card. Like, I can smell that. I smell that right now, and it brings me back to like the original trading cards. Loved how he's really done to put a lot of effort and care into these. So you have your 150 Years of, once again, Awesome Canada, come to us from Zelfa Comics. This is book 1, indicated at the top there. And you got a couple of the cards featured. Down below, it's 150 print edition. This happens to be number 138. It's also signed right there. And inside, dedicated to all proud Canadians and fans of our amazing history and culture. Gives your links, published by Zelfa Comics Limited, Mississauga, Ontario, www.zelfacomics.com, copyright 2017. It's got your writer and graphics. And again, all the cards are printed on the other side here. Now, they are actually double-sided print. On the back side, you'll have all the information, very similar to the information that was featured on the standalone card, but extensive, as you can see. Like, there's a lot that he covers off. They are perforated, not perforated, but they have the dotted lines, so you can actually cut them out if you want. To be honest, though, I don't think I would do a service of these by putting them in card sleeves. Like, I like the presentation of the booklets, that I would probably be more inclined to keeping them in the booklet themselves. So for example, this being book 1, features all the provinces of Canada. And the provinces of Canada are fun to remember. Fun to remember. That's an inside joke I'm sure only Canadians will get, but it's a song that we used to sing always in public school. Provinces of Canada are fun to remember. Oh, is it? Newfoundland and PEI, Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, Quebec, Ontario, and then you'll see Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC. Yes! But there's all the respected coat of arms. Also something else that I had to, like, all of these remind me of things I did in public school. And I'm sure most, probably nowadays too, but most certainly if you're going to school in the 80s, you probably did all the coat of arms. There's Alberta, there's British Columbia, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Nunavut, Northwest Territories, and Ontario. Ontario being my home residence. I actually don't live in all of Ontario. I live in a little dot. Just a little pin dot in Ontario. And then over here you got Quebec, Yukon, Prince Edward Island, and Saskatchewan featured also on the front there. Then you have book 2, which is again print number 37. And you have all your respected leaders of the nation. So John A. Macdonald, Sir Wilfrid Laurier, Robert Laird Borden, of course, all the way down to, well, Brian Mulroney. That was my guy. That was my guy in the 80s, Brian Mulroney. Pierre Trudeau, Lester B. Pearson. I think Lester B. Pearson, was he not known for... Let's read a little bit more about Lester B. Pearson. He's one of my personal favorites. Lester Bowles Pearson was born in Newton Brook, Toronto, Ontario in 1897. He went to the University of Toronto and later enlisted to serve as a stretcher bearer and medical orderly in the Canadian Army medical groups in Egypt and Greece during World War I. After graduating from the University of Toronto and Oxford in 1927, Pearson joined the Department of External Affairs from 1935 to 1941. Pearson served as the first secretary at the Canadian High Commission in Britain. He later moved to Washington, Canada Embassy in 1942 and even served as the Canadian ambassador to the United States in 1945. In 1948, Pearson became Secretary of State for External Affairs. By 1952, Pearson became President of the UN General Assembly for his efforts in resolving the Suez crisis in 1956 through the UN. Pearson earned the Nobel Peace Prize in 1957. Pearson became Liberal leader after the retirement of St. Lawrence and became Prime Minister in 1963. He held a minority government until 1968. During Pearson's 5 years as Prime Minister, he was responsible for the present Canadian flag. That's how I remember. Yep, he created the Canadian flag. He was also responsible for universal Medicare, and the Continental of 1967, and a fund for rural economic development. Pearson died on December 27th, 1972. Back also, a few years back, actually, they did the Greatest Canadian Alive, and my vote actually would have been Lester B. Pearson, just for what he's done for the country. Next we have is this is book 3, and inside we have the Women of Distinction from Canada. You have Emily Carr, Jean Sauve, Mary Ann Shadd, I'm sure I pronounced some of these wrong, Viola Desmond, Agnes MacPhail, Hannah Rollason Gale, Laura Secord, of course. Something else you probably remember as a kid growing up was the Great Moments in History in Canada. Not to be confused with the Great Moments in History on the SCTV, which was played obviously more for a spoof. Nellie McClung as well. Then we have book 3, or book 4, I should say. And this has different places, different cities in Canada. Montreal, Fredericton, Calgary, Ottawa, Halifax, Charlottetown, I should say, Regina, Hamilton, and Edmonton. And all their respected sites to be seen. Also not to be missing out on, There's St. John's, Vancouver, Toronto, my area, and Winnipeg. Book 5 has Canadian comic legends. For example, there is David Sim, Joe Shuster. Some people probably remember Joe Shuster. Also a great moment in Canada. Forget about it, Joe. It'll never fly. I remember that woman saying that as he was getting onto the train. Forget about it, Joe. He'll never fly. No, not fly, but leap tall buildings. Oh, Canadian. There's Mark Shane Blum, Adrian Dingle, Foster, and Richard Comely. And then on the back, it'll tell you each of what their contributions were to the comic history. By the way, Joe Shuster, Superman. We've got book 6, which features, this is, I guess, based on, let's see here. Oh, the different contributions to, let's see here. Second war, it's all the different wars. So World War I, World War II, all the Canadian contributions towards the war efforts featured there. Again, I don't know if I would be inclined to cut these out. I mean, the presentation of them are done so well in the booklets that I'd be more inclined to just kind of keep them attached. Also things for book 7. We have the Canada Coat of Arms, Northern Lights, Hockey, Trump, and Trudeau. I guess, what do we got here? Arctic. This one is categorized as National Anthem, the Arctic, Canada's flag, Canada, Confederation, the beaver. I guess things that we're known for. And let's see here. Book 8. Book 8 is all about historical, I guess, Indigenous or Native Americans. Not Native Americans, well, natives. The First Peoples, right there. Actually, you know what? I think it tells me down below. This one does not say. This one actually has the First Peoples 8 card set featured down below. And again, all their specs are represented with an extensive read-up on the back. And lastly, of this, speaking of extensive, this extensive card set, we have Book 9. And Book 9 is linked to Canadian controversies. Yes, Canadian. We may be fun-loving people that are loved all over the world, and we've contributed so much to the world, but we have controversies too. Like Canadian asbestos, eugenics in Canada, Operation Soap, slavery in Canada, 1876 Indian Act, the Chinese head tax, Japanese internment, and residential schools. And again, there's a read-up down below here. There's no such thing as a perfect country, as I just said. It doesn't matter how revered, respected, or accommodating a country is on the world's stage. Every nation has its past skeletons, even though Canada is known for its high standard of living, compassion, and acceptance of all people. Our nation does have documented past instances of disturbing discriminatory laws and mistreatment of citizens. That being said, lessons were learnt, apologies were provided to those that were wronged, compensation has been paid, and the nation has matured into the prosperous democracy we have today. Canada has much to be proud of, and we can look back at these past mistakes with solemn reflection on where we were versus where we are now. Our growth and maturity continues. And that would be Book 9. Again, a really fantastic, not only trip down, I don't want to say my memory, because my memory only spans about give or take 30, 40 years, but certainly a trip down Canada's memory as we're celebrating 150 years. 150 years of being Canada. Again, I'll provide all the information down below. Again, a big apologies to Homemade Game Guru. I put it in my office and I put stuff, but I did definitely want to cover these because, again, big thank you to you, sir, for taking the time to send these my way. And also through the process of that, it reminds me of when I was in public school. And the provinces of Canada are fun to remember. They're fun to remember. Again, if you guys are interested, if you're Canadian, or just want to really learn more about Canada as a whole, I'll put all the information down below. And if these are still available, because they are in limited quantities, you can order and get the booklets delivered to your house as well. And again, you can cut these out and put them in card sheets, but in all honesty, I think they are best represented in the booklets that he's made here as well. And as a side note, I like the smell of these cards. I don't know, it makes me sound a little weird or not. Certainly, if you guys like this video and you're Canadian, hit it with a like. If you're not Canadian and you just like Canada, hit it with a like as well. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to this channel or the Homemade Game Guru, which I'll also put his link down below, head over to his channel. You can check out not only these cards, but you can also see some of the really fun cardboard creative madness that he's done over on the channel as well. As always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.